Tim, thank you. I understand it's quite early in the morning where you are, so we do appreciate you coming on the channel.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much for having me.
Tim, because a lot of people might not be familiar with your books here in South Africa, just give us a brief context, how many books you've written, the kind of target age you aim them at, some of the themes you address.
Sure. I've written and illustrated 11 books. I've also illustrated a couple more for other authors. My topics vary greatly. They're usually humorous, silly stories that I write for me first, and people tell me that I'm a big child, so they end up being children's books.
Well, that's great. Most of us do stay children for the entire duration of our lifetimes. I completely get that. So just to give people some idea of the titles, I Hate Picture Books, The Angry Little Puffin, I'm Looking for a Monster, and one of my favorites, Do Not Open the Box. Fantastic books. What made you decide to make some of the content available during this difficult time that the whole globe is facing?
Well, right now, during this period is a very busy time for me, usually visiting schools. I'm out doing my presentations directly to the children at the schools. And when I realized, schools were having to cancel upcoming programs because of the shutdowns, I thought, well, I don't want to lose the connection that I have to the schools and to the children. So I contacted my publisher and asked if I had permission to read them online, and they said, you do whatever you feel is right. So I put a lot of my activity pages and coloring pages, I made them even more accessible than they usually are. And then I started doing these live readings, and I'm going to leave the recordings up for the duration of this event.
And so, strangely enough, even though your books aren't that widely available in South Africa, you've made a big impact on social media here. I know there have been a number of groups that have been spreading links to your colouring in pages, your activity sheets, because parents are at their wits' end. They literally need loads of content. What's been the reaction to some of the videos of you reading your books live and discussing the content?
Well, so far it's been great. I've been seeing my numbers go up with each live recording session. It's been really nice. It's nice that, for me, that some people are discovering my books through this that didn't know about them before, and I'm reconnecting with a lot of people that I've kind of lost touch with over the years. But yeah, it's nice to, and I've kind of upped my game a little bit too. When I first started doing this, it was just, as you see right here, my face on the screen. I've downloaded some software. I've gotten a little bit more savvy about live casting, and it's fascinating to me that I can broadcast to the world out of my home office, as you see. So,
what's the prospect of your books being published and distributed more widely after this global pandemic, and possibly even being translated into some of our 11 local languages?
That would be great. I know my publisher, Schiffer Publishing, has talked about doing translations in the past. They haven't closed any of those deals yet, but maybe this will change things as people around the world become more familiar with my books. I am pleased that they are available online everywhere. They're not necessarily in everybody's local bookstore, but if you search for me and find me, you can find where my books can be gotten.
And Greg, quickly, before my last question, tell us, where can people search for you? What should they be typing into Google to come up with your books?
Well, if they just search Timothy Young author, I come up pretty high in the rankings. My website is called creaturesandcharacters.com, and so that's also, if you type creatures and characters in, I'm also on the first page.
I was very interested to read online that you didn't start off being an author. You started off as an illustrator. You had, you made toys for a long time. Some of your creations were even included in Peter Gabriel's music video. So how did you get from there to becoming a children's author?
Well, I've always loved children's books, and it was my first love of the illustration process. As a child, I would copy the pictures from the books that I loved. And so I always kind of thought that I would be involved with children's books, but I didn't expect to be the one to write them. As a child, as a student, I was terrible at writing, and it took me a very, very long time to really kind of gain the confidence to be the writer. I always thought someone would come along and say, well, you know, that's a good idea. I'll write the story and you draw the pictures. And that guy never showed up, so I had to kind of, you know, figure it out myself.
Well, we're very glad you did. Thanks very much, Tim Young, for speaking to us all the way from the United States.